Our politics is now about the answer to one briefly worded question. Mr. Bush has failed, Mr. Warner has failed, Mr. Reid has failed. So, who among us will stop this war of lies? To he or she fall the figurative keys to the nation. To all the others, presidents and majority leaders and candidates and rank-and-file congressmen and senators of either party, there is only blame for this shameful and bipartisan betrayal.
I will promise you this, that if we have not gotten our troops out by the time I am president, it is the first thing I will do. I will get our troops home. We will bring an end to this war. You can take that to the bank.
Hi, I'm Jill Hepker from Grinnell, Iowa. My question is, if you were president, what would be your strategy for ending the war in Iraq?
Congressman Paul, what would it be?
Just come home. We just marched in. We can just come home.
Congressman Paul, your position on the war is pretty simple. Get out. What about, though, trying to minimize the bloodbath that would certainly occur if we pull out in a hurry? What about protecting the thousands of Iraqis who have staked their lives in backing the U.S.? And would you leave troops in the region to take out any al-Qaeda camps that are developed after we leave?
The people who say there will be a bloodbath are the ones who said it would be a cakewalk, it would be a slam dunk, and that it would be paid for by oil. Why believe them? They've been wrong on everything they've said. So why not ask the people who advise not to go into the region and into the war? The war has not gone well one bit. Yes, I would leave completely. Why leave the troops in the region? It was the fact that we had troops in Saudi Arabia was one of the three reasons given for the attack on 9/11. So why leave them in the region? They don't want our troops on the Arabian Peninsula. We have no need for our national security to have troops on the Arabian Peninsula. And going into Iraq and Afghanistan and threatening Iran is the worst thing we can do for our national security. I am less safe. The American people are less safe for this. It's the policy that is wrong. Tactical movements and shifting troops around and taking in 30 more and reducing by 5, totally irrelevant. We need a new foreign policy that said we ought to mind our own business, bring our troops home, defend this country, defend our borders.
So Congressman Paul, and I'd like you to take 30 seconds to answer this. You're basically saying that we should take our marching orders from al-Qaeda. If they want us off the Arabian Peninsula, we should leave?
No. I'm saying we should take our marching orders from our Constitution. We should not go to war. We should not go to war without a declaration. We should not go to war when it's an aggressive war. This is an aggressive invasion. We've committed the invasion of this war, and it's illegal under international law. That's where I take my marching orders, not from any enemy.
Over this way.
I, Barack Hussein Obama, do solemnly swear.
I, Barack Hussein Obama, do solemnly swear.
That I will execute the office of President to the United States faithfully.
That I will execute
the office of President of the United States. The office of
President of the United States faithfully.
And will, to the best of my ability.
And will, to the best of my ability.
Preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States.
Preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States.
So help you God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Mr. President. All the best wishes.
Helen Thomas.
President, when are you going to get out of Afghanistan? Why are you continuing to kill and die there? What is the real excuse? And don't give us this Bushism. If we don't go there, they'll all come here.
Well, Helen, the reason we originally went to Afghanistan was because that was the base from which attacks were launched that killed 3,000 people. And I'm going to get to your question, I promise.
What do you make of President Obama's approach to Iraq and Afghanistan now that he's been in office?
Every bit as bad as the last administration.
maybe even worse, because he's not getting out of Iraq. That's a pretense. And he's expanding rapidly what's happening in Afghanistan. He's continuing the bombing of Pakistan. He has not changed his attitude about Iran. They're talking about denying any shipments of gasoline to the people of Iran just to further antagonize the situation. What he's doing is a little more dangerous because he has neutralized the anti-war left. The anti-war left has just left. So he has quieted down the left, and there's a very weak anti-war movement in this country now. And that obviously is something I hope to participate in reviving. And it has to be coming from the old right as well as true progressives who believe that all this warmongering and killing makes no sense whatsoever.
I've now come to feel, you know, Stephen Carter in his new book, Violence of Peace, which is actually really interesting, talks about how Obama is really prosecuting these wars with more ferocity at this point than George W. Bush. That he's actually, you know, he's done the surge in Afghanistan. He has really shown himself to be something of a hawk when it comes to the war.
So, how depressing, yeah. Ron Paul. It seems that there is no difference between Republicans and Democrats when it comes to these wars. In fact, Barack Obama's tripled the number of troops in Afghanistan, and Republicans are pushing him to commit even longer. We've been there for over a decade, Ron.
Yeah, and this is the bad part of bipartisanship. Foreign policy is always bipartisan. And, you know, give Obama his due, because he didn't deny that he wanted to fight in Afghanistan. That's the good war. That's the long war. And he did state that in the campaign. But he has no intention of leaving. And we have no intention of leaving Iraq until we totally go broke, and we have to leave like the Soviets did. Our empire will end for financial reasons.
As the President of the United States cut a deal with the pharmaceutical companies that is good for them, but maybe not so good for you as a taxpayer. And will Congress challenge that deal? What is it? Well, it seems to be the type of deal that this president railed against, ironically enough, when he was campaigning.
With the Medicare prescription drug bill, for example, the Congress specifically exempted Medicare from being able to negotiate for the cheapest available price, and that was a profound mistake.
All right, so here's what happened now. The White House needs an industry friend to help it pass health care reform. Most who follow that would say that's fair. It got in touch with pharma, which is the lobbying arm of the drug manufacturers. And by the way, the biggest donor of campaign cash in all of American politics. Pharma, by the way, is run by this guy. That's Billy Towson. He's the well-connected former member of Congress who left politics for lobbying. The same Billy Towson singled out in this ad by, yes, presidential candidate Barack Obama.
The pharmaceutical industry wrote into the prescription drug plan that Medicare could not negotiate with drug companies. And you know what? The chairman of the committee who pushed the law through went to work for the pharmaceutical industry making $2 million a year. Imagine that. That's an example of the same old game playing in Washington. You know, I don't want to learn how to play the game better. I want to put an end to the game playing.
Who was the presidential candidate speaking to there? Billy Towson, the man candidate Obama was just talking about. He gets invited to the White House recently. He agrees last month to $80 billion in drug cost savings over the next 10 years. $80 billion. Sounds pretty good, right? But guess what? Congressional estimates show that savings on drugs could be twice that much. And the deal Towson got precludes further cuts down the road. In other words, it's locked in. Get it?
The president wants to give more power, you know, to the Federal Reserve. And if you come anywhere close to my understanding of the Federal Reserve, that's the last thing. I want to get rid of the Federal Reserve, and here he wants to enhance it. But I think they're locked in. Whether they're Republicans or Democrats, they're going to support the corporations. Even in medical care reform, who do you think is going to come out well on this? Corporations, drug companies, and insurance companies, they're being protected. You know, everybody, some conservatives accuse Obama of wanting socialized medicine. I don't
don't think so. I think he wants to perpetuate corporatism, whether it's in the financial markets or whether it's in medical care or whatever.
With a tale of two speeches, both from the same man, both from President Obama. One speech that could have been billed as a ballad to the Constitution, a proclamation of American values, a repudiation of the lawless behavior of the last presidential administration, and another speech announcing a radical new claim of presidential power that is not afforded by the Constitution and that has never been attempted in American history, even by George W. Bush and Dick Cheney. Remarkably, President Obama today made both of those speeches simultaneously. One civil liberties advocate told the New York Times today, quote, "We've known this was on the horizon for many years, but we were able to hold it off with George Bush. The idea that we might find ourselves fighting with the Obama administration over these powers is really stunning." And it is stunning, particularly to hear President Obama claim the power to keep people in prison indefinitely with no charges against them, no conviction, no sentence, just imprisonment. It's particularly stunning to hear him make that claim in the middle of a speech that was all about the rule of law.
But we must do so with an abiding confidence in the rule of law. Our government was defending positions that undermine the rule of law to ensure that they are in line with the rule of law.
How can a president speak the kind of poetry that President Obama does about the rule of law and call for the power to indefinitely, preventively imprison people because they might commit crimes in the future? How can those two things coexist in the same man, even in the same speech?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My topic for this evening is now it's assassinations. What have we allowed ourselves to become? Are we no longer a nation of laws? Have we become instead a nation of men who make secret arrests? Are secret prisons now simply another tool of the federal government law enforcement? Is secret rendition of individuals now permitted out of misplaced fear? Have we decided that the writ of habeas corpus is not worth defending? Is torture now an acceptable tool for making us safe? Unfortunately, the single answer to all of these questions from the leaders of our country and to many of our citizens appears to be yes. And now we are told that assassination of foreigners as well as American citizens is legitimate and necessary to provide security for our people. It is my firm opinion that nothing could be further from the truth.
We should have a strong president, strong enough to resist the temptation of taking power that a president
You get the
should
sense
have.
that the country is desperate for someone to show us the way. Not the old way, not the same way, but a new way.
Let me see if I get this right. We need to borrow $10 billion from China, and then we give it to Musharraf, who's a military dictator who overthrew an elected government, and then we go to war, we lose all these lives promoting democracy in Iraq. I mean, what's going on here? And you're saying?
Break the ice. Let's talk to people. Let's not threaten. What we have in foreign policy is we have two policies. One, we threaten them. And if they do our bidding, we give them a lot of money. If we don't, if they don't, we bomb them.
We live way beyond our means with a foreign policy we can't afford and an entitlement system that we have encouraged. We print money for it, the value of the money goes down, and poor people pay higher prices. That is a tax. It's a transfer of wealth from the poor and the middle class to Wall Street. Wall Street's doing quite well, but the inflation tax is eating away at the middle class of this country. We need to get rid of the inflation tax with sound money.
We don't get our rights because we're gays or women or minorities. We get our rights from our Creator as individuals. So every individual should be treated the same way.
I don't want to run your life. I don't know how to run your life. I don't have the authority to run your life, and the Constitution doesn't permit me to run your life. A currency or destroy a currency, the middle class gets wiped out. So the people who get to use the money first, which is created by the Federal Reserve System, benefit. So the money gravitates to the banks and to Wall Street. So that's why you have more billionaires than ever before. Today, this country is in the middle of a recession for a lot of people. Michigan knows about it. Poor people know about it. The middle class knows about it. Wall Street doesn't know about it. Washington, D.C. doesn't know about it. But it's because of the monetary system and the excessive spending. As long as we live beyond our means, we are destined to live beneath our means.